We live in a world that rewards visibility. A world where our worth is often measured in likes, shares, and digital applause. Yet, in this symphony of constant expression, there are those who choose silence. They scroll, they see, they feel, but they do not post. And in their quietness lies a story, one that is often misunderstood. Silence in the digital age is not absence, it's presence expressed differently. In a time when the rhythm of our lives is often dictated by notifications, updates, and the endless scroll of information, silence can feel almost radical. Yet, for those who choose not to post on social media, silence becomes a language of its own. It is not about disconnection or lack of interest, it is a conscious decision to express oneself through being rather than broadcasting. These individuals understand that their experiences, thoughts, and emotions do not need to be validated through digital affirmation. Their silence speaks of presence and awareness of the moment, of themselves, and of the spaces they inhabit without needing to translate it for an audience. When someone doesn't post, it challenges the assumption that visibility equates to value. We have been conditioned to believe that sharing is the same as existing, that if something isn't documented, it didn't really happen. But those who choose silence remind us that life continues in its fullness, even when unseen. Their quiet presence carries depth, because it stems from a kind of internal richness that does not depend on external acknowledgement. It is a form of self-assurance that says, "I am here, even if you don't see me." This kind of presence is not loud, but it is powerful. It is the kind that radiates through stillness, through mindful observation, through the decision to live rather than to perform living. The silence of these individuals also reveals a profound comfort with solitude. They do not fear being alone with their thoughts, their memories, their emotions. In fact, they often find clarity there. While many turn to social media as a mirror to reflect their existence, these people find their reflection in quieter places, in journaling, in nature, in private conversations, in simply being. Their silence is not a withdrawal from the world but a different way of engaging with it, one that prioritizes inner resonance over public response. They understand that the essence of a moment cannot always be captured by pixels or posts, it is felt, not shown. In their silence, they offer a mirror to the rest of us. They remind us that presence does not always require proof, and that sometimes, the most meaningful expressions of being are the ones that remain unseen. Their quietness invites curiosity, even discomfort, because it resists the demand for constant visibility. But in doing so, it also reclaims something sacred, the right to exist fully, authentically, and meaningfully without the need for an audience. Those who don't post on social media are often observers, not performers, driven by introspection rather than validation. They experience the world through depth rather than display, preferring to watch, absorb, and reflect instead of constantly sharing. Their attention is turned inward, not out of detachment, but from a genuine curiosity about life that is unfiltered by performance. While the online world often rewards those who shout the loudest, the observers understand that true understanding comes from listening. They are the quiet ones in the room who notice the tone of someone's voice, the shift in mood, the small details others miss because they are too busy curating their own stories. For these individuals, social media can feel like a stage where everyone is performing a version of themselves, editing moments until they fit a certain narrative of success, beauty, or happiness. Observers choose to stay in the audience rather than stepping under the lights, not because they have nothing to share, but because they value authenticity over applause. They find meaning in reflection rather than reaction. When they encounter something beautiful, their instinct isn't to capture it for others, but to experience it deeply for themselves. Their satisfaction comes from the moment itself, not from how it appears to others. This inward focus gives them a stronger sense of self, one that is not constantly shaped or reshaped by the shifting tides of online validation. Observers live in a state of quiet awareness. They study people, patterns, and emotions. They understand how human behavior changes when it is watched and how performance alters truth. Their introspection often makes them more empathetic because they are not preoccupied with being seen, they are focused on seeing. They recognize the vulnerability behind others' posts, the longing for recognition hidden behind smiles and captions. This awareness allows them to connect more deeply, not through screens, but through real moments of understanding and presence. In a society where self-expression has been equated with constant visibility, their restraint is misunderstood as indifference. Yet, their silence holds intention. They are not disengaged, they are simply choosing a different form of engagement, one rooted in reflection, not reaction. Their world is rich with internal dialogue, contemplation, and emotional intelligence. They may appear invisible online, but they are vividly present in thought and observation. Their value is not measured in likes or followers, but in the depth of what they perceive, the authenticity of what they feel, and the meaning they find in moments that are too sacred to be shared. Their restraint reflects a deep understanding of privacy, authenticity, and the value of internal validation. In a culture that thrives on exposure, restraint becomes a quiet act of wisdom. Those who choose not to post on social media recognize that not everything meaningful must be displayed, and not every emotion requires an audience. They understand that privacy is not secrecy, it is a form of self-respect. It is the boundary that protects their inner world from the noise of collective judgment and comparison. This restraint is not about fear or withdrawal, it is about choosing what to keep sacred in a time when everything is offered for consumption. For these individuals, authenticity is not something that can be proven publicly. It exists within them, shaped by private thoughts, personal values, and real experiences that don't need external confirmation. They are not driven by the urge to curate an image but by the desire to remain whole. When moments of joy, pain, or transformation occur, they experience them without needing to translate those feelings into captions or aesthetics. Their life is lived, not performed. By holding back, they preserve the integrity of their experiences, they allow their emotions to unfold naturally, without the pressure to make them look acceptable or impressive to others. This restraint also reveals a strong sense of internal validation. While social media often teaches people to seek affirmation through hearts and comments, those who refrain from posting draw their confidence from within. They understand that validation built on external approval is fleeting, while validation rooted in self-awareness is enduring. They don't need their self-worth echoed back through screens because they have learned to listen to their own inner voice. This inner stability allows them to navigate life with calm clarity rather than anxiety about how they are perceived. Their understanding of privacy and authenticity often gives their lives a sense of depth that constant sharing can dilute. In their quietness, they nurture relationships that are more genuine because they are based on real interaction, not digital projection. They protect their memories by keeping them close, allowing moments to remain personal rather than public property. Their restraint becomes an invisible form of strength, a silent declaration that not every truth needs to be broadcast, and not every feeling requires validation. They remind us that some parts of our lives are most powerful when they belong solely to us, unfiltered and untouched by the eyes of the crowd. They live between connection and solitude, choosing meaning over attention. In a world that constantly pushes people toward visibility, those who do not post on social media exist in a delicate balance between engaging with others and protecting their own inner space. They are not disconnected from the world, they are selective about how and when they connect. Their relationships are intentional rather than habitual, and their interactions are grounded in depth rather than display. While others may chase attention to feel seen, these individuals pursue connection that feels genuine and mutual. They understand that attention is temporary and often shallow, but meaning endures because it is built on authenticity, understanding, and shared presence. Their ability to embrace solitude is not a sign of loneliness but of emotional maturity. They find peace in their own company and do not rely on the validation of others to feel whole. Solitude becomes their sanctuary, a place to think, to feel, to breathe without the noise of external judgment. In these moments of quiet reflection, they are able to hear themselves clearly, to reconnect with what truly matters beyond the surface-level noise of digital chatter. This capacity for solitude strengthens their relationships because they come to others not out of neediness or insecurity but from a place of wholeness. They do not seek to fill a void, they come to share what already overflows. Their connections are different. They prefer long conversations to short exchanges, presence over performance, and sincerity over popularity. They are drawn to people who value authenticity more than attention and who understand that silence can sometimes say more than words. When they connect, they listen fully, with curiosity and care. They are not distracted by the need to document the moment, they are living it. Their relationships often carry a quiet intensity because they are built on shared meaning, not mutual display. Choosing meaning over attention also allows them to live more grounded lives. They are not pulled into the comparison traps that social media often creates. Their sense of value does not rise and fall with trends or opinions. Instead, they measure fulfillment through experiences that align with their inner values, acts of kindness, genuine conversations, creative expression, or quiet moments of joy. They remind us that being truly connected has little to do with being constantly visible and everything to do with being deeply present, both with oneself and with others. Their quietness invites us to question, do we share to connect, or do we share to be seen? In a digital culture where visibility often masquerades as connection, the silence of those who don't post becomes a mirror reflecting our own motivations. Their lack of participation in the constant cycle of sharing forces us to confront why we post, what we seek from it, and what we might be losing in the process. For many, posting feels like an act of connection, a way to reach out, to be part of something larger, to express oneself. Yet beneath that desire often lies another impulse, the need to be noticed, to be validated, to be reminded that we matter. When someone chooses not to play this game, their stillness highlights how easily we confuse attention with affection and how we've come to equate being seen with being valued. Their restraint challenges the assumption that expression must always be public. It asks us to consider whether our online interactions are genuine moments of connection or simply performances designed to fill emotional gaps. Do we share to communicate, or do we share to be acknowledged? In questioning this, we begin to recognize how the platforms we use shape not only our behavior but also our sense of self. Every post, every like, every comment reinforces an idea of who we think we should be, often drifting further from who we actually are. The quiet observer resists this by not participating, by choosing authenticity over performance. Their silence, therefore, is not passive, it is reflective. It invites us to pause and ask whether our need for visibility has begun to overshadow our need for sincerity. When we see people who do not post, we might feel curiosity or even discomfort, because their silence exposes our own dependency on being seen. Their way of being reminds us that connection is not measured by activity but by presence, that depth cannot be achieved through constant exposure. They show us that sometimes, the truest forms of communication happen off-screen, in eye contact, in shared laughter, in moments too fleeting or sacred to capture. Their quietness is not absence but depth. It carries a message that challenges the speed and superficiality of the digital world. It whispers that connection is not about how many people know us but how deeply we know ourselves, and that perhaps the greatest expression of being is not always to be seen, but to simply be.